It could just be not taking on the emotion, apologizing, and, for something that is not your fault, right? The
All right.
client or customer doesn't want to hear the apology of something that's not your fault. They just want to hear that you understand. They want to be heard.
You're listening to the Spotlight edition of The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Louis Prosperi. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Louis Prosperi. Our guest is the Director of Sales, Sage 50 US. Please welcome Syvonia Brown to the show.
Thank you for having me, Louis.
Syvonia, I'm really interested to know a little bit more about you. It says here you've led teams and you've worked with many clients. And here's something that we don't talk about a lot, but it's integrated in our daily lives when it comes to bookkeepers and accountants, is the emotional intelligence of the business. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, or what you perceive that to be?
Yeah. So to me, emotional intelligence is about being present and confident and showing up, right? Like showing up as your authentic self and being emotionally available for your customers, clients.
So you brought up a couple of things, presence and awareness.
Mhm.
How do you do that? What can you give us some little things you talked about? So to be aware and present, what are some of the things that they should do automatically every time they engage?
Mhm. So I guess self check-in, see how you're doing for the day is a big
Okay.
thing. Making sure that you're available to pay attention, because sometimes we let our own stresses or our own internal situations get in the way. So we have to be able to separate ourselves from that, and make sure that we're emotionally available for our clients.
So I like that. Pay attention.
Mhm.
I call that active listening. That's my
Mhm.
term, but I think we're both talking about the same thing.
Mhm.
And bookkeepers or accountants are naturally problem solvers. So I'm pretty sure what you're saying is don't go right into the solution, right? Can you
Mhm.
explain how someone should be
Yeah.
active listening or pay attention?
Mhm.
How do we do that without automatically
Yeah.
going into the solution? How does that work?
Yeah, definitely. So the best thing to do is to ask questions, right? More probing questions to try to understand the situation thoroughly. If we jump right into the solution, then we miss a lot of things. If we assume, oh, I know what they're going to say before they even say it because I've been doing this for 20 years, you,
Right.
you kind of miss the mark sometimes. So slow down and take
Yes.
your time to ask questions and kind of understand what is going on before we jump to fixing.
That's very interesting. What do you think about, most people hate what we call silence in a conversation. So if you don't talk, let's do it. Let's do a little test. We'll do a 5 second where we're both not saying anything. Ready? Go. There we go. So do you recommend? See how that was awkward because not neither one of us said anything. Do you recommend the professional bookkeeper to get used to having pauses, like if the customer's not talking, as an active listening tool, do not just fill up the space? What do you think about that?
Definitely, because it gives the customer or client the time to gather their thoughts as well, right? They might be heightened, stressed out about a financial situation,
Right.
you know, the the checkbook is not balancing, the payroll hasn't gone out, whatever the case may be. And so
Sure.
they need time to process as well. So silence doesn't have to be awkward. Silence could be a time for everyone to gather their thoughts.
So let's say the silence makes you awkward? What are tips to allow you? Was it bite your tongue? What do you do to? What can you do as a? Because honestly, we're all prone to this. As soon as we hear more than a couple of seconds, if they're not going to talk, how do we stop ourselves from talking?
Yeah. So I usually do a countdown in my head,
Good. Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if no one has said anything, then are you there? I just want to check in. You know, can I explain further something that I said, or, a check-in question. And that kind of breaks the ice a little bit.
Yeah, I love the check-in question. Let's focus on that because that's a good add-on, right? So we're talking about to be quite honest, folks, what we're doing right now is we're focusing on a very specific component, which is active listening to shut down your problem-solving brain, right? Syvonia, I think that's what we're trying to do here.
Correct.
So these are tips that are very active, are very positive. So check-in questions. My favorite one is there anything else?
Mhm. Mhm.
What's your favorite one? What are the ones that you tend to use?
I tend to use have I explained everything well,
Yeah.
or do you have any further questions about anything that I brought up? Did I miss something?
Yes.
Yeah, and that kind of triggers, oh yeah, yeah. There is something else. Or can you elaborate on that more? And then it keeps the conversation going.
Okay. Good. Good. I guess the next part, since we're talking about active listening, is it better to either be in person or like what we're doing? Even though this is a podcast, I could see you because we have a Zoom capability, or do you think just by the phone? Like how would you want to engage your customer on or client on a regular basis? Would you want to do just phone calls?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
here's another one, email conversations. Tell me
Yeah.
what you think.
Yeah. So I've been in my role, well, working for Sage for 25 years. And so
Yes.
phone sales has been my life for 25
Right.
years. So understanding tone and language, and can't see the body, but the way people express themselves through
Right.
tone has been how I've been, making a living. So
Fair enough.
over the phone is fine for me. In person, obviously you can see everything, right? Body
Yeah.
language, when they're getting upset, when they're confused, because you can see the facial expression. But you
Okay.
can also do the same thing through tone of voice. If my
Okay.
voice goes up or higher, then I'm excited or elevated, or
Yeah.
if I'm short, you can kind
Yeah.
of tell. And in my
Yeah.
imagination, I use my imagination to tell, like, this person's not happy, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and then I change how I approach the conversation.
So, number one, I guess, when we're talking about active listening, we're not just listening to words, we're listening to the tone,
Mm.
how people are behaving. I guess you didn't say anything about email, so you probably don't think you should do a conversation of active listening through email. Is that
Yeah.
the last thing you would do? I'm just asking because I hate it. So
Yeah, me too, to be honest. I feel like you can't really tell how I'm feeling in an email unless I'm in all caps with exclamation points. Then
sure.
then you can tell.
Well, let's be honest, Syvonia. If that would be someone when they get on the phone, you can tell they're upset, right? So
Yes.
you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. The only thing you could probably understand is if they're upset, but the rest of it would be very difficult to get. So
Yeah.
can we both say to our professionals that active listening has to be done at a minimum over the phone, ideally either in person or visually, to add the visual component. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. It's not totally impossible to have a full conversation via email because we all do it. Uh,
Right.
my preference would be over the phone or in person, or on like a Teams or a Zoom, right? Because then I could see, how I need to approach the conversation. But even through email, certain keywords is what you want to look for, is the customer being short in the email? Are they
Right.
being unresponsive? What type of language are they using in the email? Are they saying they're confused or frustrated? The keywords is what you would use to pick up on their feelings in an email.
So what about empathy?
Hmm.
Because the empathy goes both ways. People might not want to be empathetic because they feel they might be walked all over, or uh, do you think that empathy should be part of the emotional playlist of a professional? And on top of that, not engage in the argument. I guess I'm trying to figure the right words to say here.
Yeah.
Savonia, maybe you can help me on that. If you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I do. I think, to answer your original question, empathy plays a major role in how you show up for your customers and your clients. I think if you're too disconnected, then people won't see the human side of you, right? And it's important for customers and clients to see the human side and know that you can be empathetic. Now, being empathetic and taking on the situation, right? The client's emotion. Those are two different things, I think. And
Okay.
we have to learn how to separate from it. So I can be empathetic. I can show you that I care, but I don't have to carry what you're giving to me, right? I can separate myself from it. I can show you, that I understand and work on how to resolve, but that's my role, is to work on how to resolve, not to take it on, because I feel like sometimes when you take it on, you make it worse in some cases.
So explain more about what you mean by take it on. Like,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Does that mean like you're absorbing the stressors from the customer, or are you taking it personally? What can you just
Mhm.
elaborate a little more on that, please?
Yes, so it could be both, right? So if I'm taking it personally, now I'm going to be elevated. And majority of the time when the customer is or a client is escalated, it has nothing to do with me, right? It's about the situation. So I
Right.
have to take the personal out of it. So it could be that, or it could just be not taking on the emotion, apologizing, and for something that is not your fault, right? The
All right.
client or customer doesn't want to hear the apology of something that's not your fault. They just want to hear that you understand. They want to be heard.
That's an interesting concept when we're talking about, so apologizing.
Mhm.
We think that when we apologize, the sun comes out, and
Mhm.
you're saying that the apology might not make the sun come out, and you might get upset because they didn't accept your apology. Is that correct?
Yes. Or, at that moment, it's not what the client needs to hear,
I see.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. What they need to hear is how we can resolve the situation and that you understand what's going on.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's it. That's actually really, really intriguing. One is, don't take it personally. Here's the problem that we all encounter, and since you've been in sales and you've done a lot of phones, so you've probably dealt with a lot of customers that are a
Yes.
bit upset, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Uh, how do we? The challenge that most of us have is we know the customer's upset and they're saying things they shouldn't, or they're
Hmm.
not being respectful.
Yes.
How do we deal with that? And when should we, you know, okay, empathy has to stop. This is going beyond a reasonable level.
Yeah.
Because that's probably one of the things that most of us have a problem is, like, where do we draw the line? Where do we go? And how do we differentiate from, he's angry,
Mhm.
but once I can help, but that anger is not towards me, but there's a limit to that, because people
Mhm.
do get verbally abused, unfortunately,
They
right?
do. Yes. Yeah. And that's not something that we would ever ask a colleague to take on. What I tell my team is there's a way to de-escalate the situation. And if that does not work, then we have to separate from the
Okay.
situation, right? So not elevating ourselves or elevating our voice to the situation, we stay calm, right? Because we know the resolve. We know how to fix it. The customer is coming to us with their frustration, and our job is not to make them more frustrated, right?
Right. Right.
And most times they don't want to hear that you're frustrated too, or that you understand the frustration. They just want you to hear them out. And once they're heard, how do we move forward and how do we fix it? And that's how you take control of the call.
So do not match the tone.
Do not. Please do not.
All right, that's a good one. And what you're saying is, what other tips can you do? Just like, give me some examples of what you could say to try to de-escalate a customers that coming in and they're not satisfied with the work. Like,
Mhm.
let's say it's an error on our part. Like we messed up,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
from the customer's perspective, doesn't matter what we think, whether it's a big deal or not. It's not
Mhm.
relevant anymore.
Yep.
So we messed up, and they're upset.
Mhm.
So what are some of the things you could do, put in your toolkit that you
Mhm.
think would be useful?
Yeah, definitely transparency, acknowledgement. Don't shy away from it. Don't, try to tiptoe around it. Acknowledge it. Like if this was a situation that was caused by me, and I need to
Right,
take accountability of it. And of course, at that point, then yes, it would be my fault. So I would apologize for my
right.
misdoing. But to make it, put the customer on hold and try to avoid taking accountability just makes it even worse, right?
Okay.
Yeah, if you take accountability up front, the customer, acknowledges, okay, they apologize. Now, how do we fix it? And then we can move past it and get it fixed.
And from your experience, whether it's you or a colleague, if you acknowledge the error,
Hmm.
now if it's yours personally, you can apologize directly.
Right.
But if you acknowledge that the error did occur,
Hmm.
right, um, and accept their issue and then try to solve it, that generally, for the most part, takes care of a lot of concerns.
Yeah,
Correct.
for the most part, because, we're not, staying on the phone and going back and forth. That wasn't my fault. I didn't do that. Or I don't know what happened. We take
Yeah.
accountability for it right away and we fix to make
So
sure we
that was an
maintain the
interesting
customer.
one. Putting someone on hold. So what
Hmm.
happens if unfortunately, Syvonia, you're the one that got the call,
Yeah.
and they said something went wrong, and you have
Hmm.
no clue if it was wrong or not.
Hmm.
Do you put them on hold to find out if it was wrong, or do you try to resolve the issue? Like, because if you say if because that might be an irritant when you don't know,
Hmm.
right? Or do you just say you don't know? Like, what do you do with that when it's not like you're totally caught off guard, right?
Yeah.
They call you, you messed up, and
Hmm.
they
Hmm. Hmm.
right, and
Yeah.
you probably don't even remember or whatever. What can you do in that point? What do you do? What would you suggest?
Yeah. So in that case, if I don't know everything that's going on, I'm going to say that. Let me figure this out. Let me get to the history of what happened, especially if it had nothing to do with me and I just received the call, right? Like I
Right.
need to understand, but I'm not going to throw my colleague under the bus, but I'm also not going to tell the customer that they're wrong, right? Because I don't know the full
Yeah.
situation. So
Okay.
I ask for grace and ask, can I, figure out what's going on here? And then I can come back to you with a resolve.
So this sounds great, but it sounds like someone who's got 25 years experience,
Hmm.
that is learned over time. So what my next question is going to be is for small bookkeeping firms or for firms in general that have not just the owner attached to it, but have staff, have an administrator, a receptionist, have a couple of people working for them, and these calls will float all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, how can they? I'm going to be technical here. How can they embed emotional intelligence into their company culture? I know that's a lot to, but if you could parse that down a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah. So how can they embed emotional intelligence into their culture?
Right. So
Correct.
people, not only so it's kind of like, I don't need 12 years experience. It's kind of
Mhm.
like, it's expected. You learn very quickly. How do you do, like, give us some, because you have a team. I'm sure you
Mhm.
do this too with your team, right?
Yep.
So
hmm Yeah. So I say transparency is key, right? Building empathy into your huddles and your team meetings and debriefs with your teams. Uh, bringing emotional intelligence, like you are the leader, so whatever you do is going to be reflective in on your team. And structure, if you structure it correctly and structure empathy and EI into your organization, then the culture will kind of follow that.
so what happens if we're talking to professionals that have never heard of emotional intelligence before? They probably used it. I guarantee you, everybody uses it.
hmm
Uh, what do you suggest? Is there anything that you suggest for them? Is there training? Is there anything
hmm
that Sage does to promote this part of the? Because Sage is, so, I know you guys are a software company. I get
hmm
it. I know you sell software, but my experience with Sage is that their whole practice is to help professional bookkeepers and accountants build their practices, provide them with tools beyond the software. So hopefully I answered hopefully there is something you can provide on your end.
Yeah, so Sage internally has training on emotional intelligence that all employees have to take. So that's how I initially learned about it, is through Sage. But there's also LinkedIn learning courses on emotional intelligence and how to incorporate it into your organization.
Cool. Cool. So is there software? Because people always ask about software.
Mhm.
Is there any software that can connect with Sage with regards to emotional intelligence? Because I don't know any of any. I'm just going to ask you that question.
Not any that I'm aware of. No.
Yeah, me neither. Okay,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
all right. You do agree though, this part of the culture, or this part of the interaction with a customer, has to be people telling people how to do it, right? It's not a software thing, right? Okay, good.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because everybody talks about, well, is there an AI stuff? And
hmm
both of us agree that this is not AI.
No, I think this
Okay,
the human part,
good,
right?
good.
We definitely
Yes,
need
ladies
that.
and gentlemen, it's all about human interaction on this one,
Yes.
right? Good, good. No, I'll be honest with you. I just want people to stop talking about that stuff too much, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so you do agree? Like, here's something. So this emotional intelligence, you do agree that this is probably one of the key factors in a firm
Mhm.
developing profitability, higher customer satisfaction. It's
Mhm.
probably more important sometimes than the other aspects. Do you agree with that?
I agree. I agree. It's definitely can help you build your relationships with your customers and your clients. The more comfortable they are, and the more they, I guess, for lack of a better term, like you, right? The
Right.
more they'll come back and they'll refer you out. I still have customers that reach out to me after 20 years of, I've been in other roles, and they still, hey, can you help me, or can you point me in the right direction? Because I've built that rapport and show the human side. So I still have customers after all this time.
So from your perspective, since you're into sales and for Sage 50,
hmm
right? Uh, and your team sells Sage,
hmm
that emotional intelligence has probably helped your team foster long-term relationships with your customers. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Customers know when they call in to us, their expectation is to get help, right?
Right.
And so that's what I have my team focus on. You are here to help and de escalate any situations, not to make them worse. So
Right.
that
Right.
the team's focus is to make sure that we're available and open to understanding what's going on and resolving.
And that's probably one of the keys. If you would have to quantify not just the quality of the product. But one of the key successors is probably that aspect of the service. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. Mhm.
All right. Okay. So, Miss Syvonia Brown, this is great. Can you give us some tidbits of knowledge that before we leave that the professional bookkeeper should say these things you should automatically incorporate into your, if you're a one person show, like
Mhm,
individual contractor, or if
mhm.
you have a small team, please put this into your customer engagements. If you can give us something, that would be great.
Yeah, the biggest thing is to stay transparent and present and slow down.
Slow
All the things
down.
that, yeah, I think we move so fast and we're trying to, you know, go in, like you said earlier, go in straight to the solution. And there could be multiple things, that the customer needs. And we miss opportunities when we move too fast. So the biggest thing is to slow down, ask questions that help you to understand more of what the customer needs, especially a new customer, right? Like
Right.
you're trying to get to know them, trying to get to know their business. So, and they want to tell you about their business. People love telling you about their businesses, and they love when you're
Yes.
interested, like
Yeah.
really interested, not just asking to be asking, but I
Yes.
want to learn about your business. Like setting that expectation up front is what's been beneficial. And also, I'm going to come back to something that you said. I know you want everyone to get away from AI, but AI is important. I don't want to take away from it. It's
Okay.
just not. It just doesn't with emotional intelligence. You need that human connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. AI is becoming more central in our,
Mhm.
it's in the software and so forth.
Yep.
But since we're talking about emotional intelligence, I'm sorry, people to people,
Yes.
it I'm a little, maybe I'm a little old school, but
Oh,
I do want people talking to people or
yeah,
engaging, right?
for sure.
And until you take us out of the system, then we're always going to be talking to each other, right?
That's
So
right. That's right.
that's fantastic. I really enjoyed this conversation,
Oh, thank
Savonia.
you.
This was really nice. We normally talk technically. I know that Sage is a software company, and you guys have fantastic products. And I know that Sage 50, but what you've done is let us go inside the back room here and talk about the person-to-person interaction that's part of Sage. And
Definitely.
I think that's fantastic. So if there's any way people want to ask you more questions or
Mhm.
want to connect to your team,
Yeah.
what should they do?
Yeah. So we have a Sage for accountants team that's
Right.
prepared and can answer any questions about Sage 50, Sage 100, 300, all the products, all our flavors of software. and
Fair enough.
and we can the team can be reached at 866-565-2726
Okay.
on our website at sage.com.
All right. Perfect. Well, Savonia, thank you for being on the show.
And thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. That wraps up another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to the Spotlight edition of The Successful Bookkeeper with Louis Prosperi. For more information and to access the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening and have a great week.